You don't need a good setup to win anything, as long as you can just become good with what you have.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It is your boy Jackson Steiner. Today I'm joined with one of the best in pro wrestling right now. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the new RWA World Champion, APOTH. Welcome to the show, man.
Glad to be here.
So yeah, man, have you been recently?
I've been doing pretty good. It's been good with this new PC. I didn't think I would do too well with it at first, but seems like I proved myself wrong.
Let's get started, Chris. How did you get your start in pro wrestling?
My career kind of started back in 2016, if we want to go all the way back there. This was when I was into WWE and all that, and I just randomly was watching YouTube and found Roblox, and I decided to create my account, and I decided to find some WWE games to play, and I eventually found this one fed called RWE by a guy named T Blackstar T, and that's what got me into wrestling. And later on, I would go on to later retire in 2018, and then come back in 2020, where I would eventually become an APOTH during the summer, and from there I just kept going uphill. Where I started to do well took place in January when it was Outbreak Takeover X, where I beat Zane Ethan and Tyler Bate 5-4-1 to become the final Outbreak champion. And that just led to a chain of events with me winning titles almost everywhere I go. And that would eventually lead me to today, where I won the RWAC on Sunday.
Roblania would like to congratulate you on that impressive accomplishment. I'm pretty sure you were over the moon about that title win.
Yeah, I didn't think I'd win it this soon. I thought I would win it a lot later on. It's one of the many goals that I had for my wrestling career.
Now, you do mention everywhere you go, you seem to always win a championship. Based on how popular you have been getting recently, as your career has been skyrocketing, how do you decide to join which feds?
I decided to join on feds based on how I want to schedule in real life. I'm not trying to join too much feds because I don't want to overwork myself and make this feel like a job where I have to go to a single fed every single day, because I also want to make sure I have time for myself too, because I just don't feel like being everywhere. Whichever feds I find fun to be at, I'll keep going to those feds. But I'm always open to try new feds to see how they are.
Yeah, I think it's important for pro wrestlers to always try to fit pro wrestling if they want into their schedule without overlapping with important things to do in real life. But I see where you're coming from about trying to keep it low, but always keeping an open mind with other federations. What was your first championship you remember winning in your pro wrestling career?
The one I can remember that felt very good to me was back in a fed back in 2017, which back in 2017, that's when I first met Sean and Fizzo. We used to go to this fed called WWE HD, owned by a guy named JDude567, and I would eventually go on to win their world title, which felt very great to me, as that was one of my first world titles ever that I've won, which back in 2017, I was pretty young, I was 10 years old, and that felt very important to me.
Is there really any bad fed owners that you see clearly?
Personally, no, I have not had any bad experiences with any fed owners. Still, with every fed owner that I've gone to their feds, I've had no problems with any fed owners, and overall, I've just had fun experiences at the feds I've gone to.
In these interviews we do here on Roblania, we kind of always ask the question, do you think pro wrestling is dying?
As of right now, it does feel like it's on a downfall from the past, but I feel like with more feds starting to rise, it could go back uphill again. It's just that a problem is most people don't try to venture out in the new feds. They always stick with the feds that are well known, not giving other feds chances, which I don't like how some people do that, because if you want more feds to grow and help rise as a community, people need to start going to more unknown feds and help them make a name for themselves, so we can have those bigger feds when they finally rise.
Getting back to your pro wrestling career, who were some of your greatest opponents to compete with?
Definitely Unstable Ken as one of them, because me and him just had that 5-star match on Sunday. I thought I was going to lose that match, and that was honestly one of the best matches I've ever had in my career. Another person that I thought that was pretty good, definitely Justice League. Me and him, it was pretty fun fighting him for 2 times, the only 2 times we fought. I didn't think I'd be able to fight him ever before, and I was pretty excited to fight him for the first time at SCW. And then Cyan Logic, when I was in YCW fighting for the world title against Ridge and Cyan, I always wanted to work in the ring with Cyan before, and when I first heard that he won the number 2 contendership, I knew I was happy because like I finally would get to work in the ring with him, because I know him and Sean have had good matches together, and I wanted to see what it was like to fight Cyan. Definitely was not a letdown.
It was WWE WrestleMania. At the very end of the show, someone was on the mic and they said, no doubt about it, WWE is the greatest World Wrestling Fed right now. Do you agree with that statement?
I can see it being one of the greatest feds right now, but personally, I'm stuck on, like, right now, 2 feds being number 1, WWE and SCW. I feel like either one of those feds has great storylines, great production, great matches overall, and so does WWE. It's like a tough race between those two on who could be number 1, in my opinion.
The production on WWE WrestleMania this past week was off the charts, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can agree. WrestleMania was pretty good.
How do you feel about the old Fed who recently returned, ORW? Do you think they should be in the talks to be the greatest Fed right now?
ORW, it's definitely a good Fed right now. I've heard people saying that it's better than it was in the past. Now, I haven't really been at ORW much. I've only really fought in a tag match with Sean as a part of the NWO. So I don't really have much I can base off of with ORW, but from what I've heard, it's pretty good right now, and it's definitely one of the best feds that's out there in wrestling right now.
In your pro wrestling career, and this may seem a little off topic, have you ever been in a tag team?
Have I been ever in a tag team? Back then, when me, Sean, and Fizzo did a faction called Dead on Arrival, me and Fizzo were like the main tag team, and we didn't do it in much feds, but we won tag team championships with it. And I also know in AXW, me, Caden, Jersey, and Wide did like a faction there. And me and Wide, we did win the number 1 contenderships, but due to Wide having like a snowstorm, because this was back in like February, I had to get a placement partner, which I got Caden Jersey to be a replacement partner. So while Wide wasn't able to play, me and Caden Jersey were doing the tag team there, which we would end up to go on to win the AXW Tag Team Championships. But other than that, I haven't really done much tag team, and I've been mainly focusing on my singles career.
Sean APOTH said this about UWI. Before I thought to myself, just another federation. After all the trailers, miniseries, the idea, the potential, you are the federation, the most promising federation. How do you feel about United Wrestling International, hosted by AZ?
I like UWI. From what I've seen, because I'm pretty active there, it's unique. I like UWI. The story production, the storytelling, it's all great. It feels completely unique from other feds, and I heavily enjoy being at UWI. Each segment, each match, all enjoyable, and I can't wait to see how UWI does in the future. It's overall one of my favorite feds to go to right now.
You've set up quite a path in UWI, and I think you've said recently that you in a promo that you're going out to the Elite Contender Championship. Is that true?
Yes, I have my eyes set on the Elite Contender Championship right now. I know of its prestige in RWI, and after hearing that, I remember going in the ASDMs, because I was telling him I wanted to go for this title, not just because of the prestige, because I feel like I can carry this on, because first, when I was DMing him, he didn't think I was a good fit for it, but I kept telling him on how I want to improve my character work. I don't want to just be a guy known for my in-ring skills. I want to also be known for being good at my character work. And ever since then, being into the Elite Contender division, I've just been improving in my character work. I feel like I made a great decision doing that, because my character work has been at its best, because I remember back then, in like my early days in Outbreak, I hated my character work. I just did not want to do anything segment-wise or with like promos. But working in the Elite Contender division, this has made me become more brave when it comes to this stuff, and overall just made me better.
What is your future with United Wrestling International?
I definitely plan on sticking with UWI until its end. I want to be a very active member in UWI, and it just, like I said before, one of my favorite feds right now. and I hope I do a lot in UWI in its future.
What do you say were some of your favorite Fed owners to work for?
As of right now, BPW was one of them. I liked working with Dylan because BPW, one of my favorite feds I've been to, because it also was one of the feds that helped give me a push start too. Because this was the first fed that decided to push me after I won Outbreak Championship. Which, speaking of Outbreak Championship, I did love having Mox and Ken as a host. They made APRW look so well, and it made APRW one of the feds that I loved the most. Because APRW was one of the feds that's also grew me as a person. Because Outbreak did its job to me. It built me to be better. Because I used to go from one of the worst people in Outbreak to becoming the final Outbreak champion. Outbreak did its job in making me improve, and I'm definitely glad I was able to be in Outbreak for its last months.
How do you feel about APRW ending? You think it could've-
APRW ending, I did not like it. I was still glad of what I did though. I was able to definitely get better very fast through Outbreak, as towards the end I was able to get onto the main roster on Mayhem, and that was one of the things I wanted to do before APRW ended, get onto the main roster, which I did. So I was having a multi-contract with Mayhem and Outbreak, because I remember the day I got onto it, I beat Tyler Bate, who was the Outbreak champion at the time. After that, there was a segment with me, Fizzo, and Mox to get me and Fizzo onto the main roster, which unfortunately I didn't do too well on the main roster, as I went 1 for 3. My only win was against JC3, and it was just saddening to see APRW go for me overall, as it was one of the feds that made me who I am today.
What are some of your favorite matches from the history of APRW?
Some of my favorite matches from the history of APRW, like I've said before, I haven't really been around the community that long since I've returned, but I have seen some of the matches on YouTube. Brutal Damon versus Don Morrison for the APRW, I believe it was World Heavyweight Championship. That was a good match I liked. It was just interesting seeing the match. It was super close between the two. Other than that, there's not much I can take on that, as I've not been here long enough in this community to see most of the APRW matches.
I want you to list off every single championship you're holding, to your knowledge.
XRW USC, XWE USC, RWAC, the OM World Wrestling Championship. I'm trying to remember. This is so hard to remember. I have too many titles.
You got any number one contenderships?
I just can't remember right now.
Speaking of the, you mentioned the RWA Championship.
Mhm.
How did you feel about the recent announcement that SCW joined the RWA? How do you feel about that?
The SCW joined the RWA. That was definitely a good choice by them. I love SCW. It's one of my favorite feds, production wise too, like UWI. They have great storytelling, and all of the matches, they look good. Segment wise, it's amazing. I especially like the Raheem story. Like, they've put so much work into that it's impressive, because they've gotten so many people to like help with it, and it just still interests me. It shocks me how well they did this, just to involve around in kayfabe Mighty Runnels staff. I just hope for SCW's best in the RWA, and hope it does even better.
What are your feelings about winning the RWA Championship after all the accomplishments you have made before?
I'm still shocked about how I won that. I thought it was over for me when it was for the 4. Ken had me in a position where I could have easily lost that. But kind of like what happened at the Outbreak Championship match. I thought I was going to lose that match too, but all of a sudden just something burned inside me, and I just started the clutch back. Because in Outbreak Championship, I remember I had a 4-3, I was down 4-3-0. And because Zane had 4, I had 3. We successfully got Zane out, then I got killed by Tyler. I thought it was over right then in that moment after Tyler died, because everyone was saying GG in the chat, and then luckily for me there, I spiked, and after that I killed Zane 4-4-1, and then I later on killed Zane in that 1v1, and then killed Tyler for the win. Kind of like that happened in the RWAC match. I just clutched out of nowhere and just won the RWAC. I didn't think I'd win it this early, because from the span it's been since I won Outbreak Championship, the RWAC, It's only been like 4 months. I didn't think I'd win it this fast. I thought I'd win it like, I don't know, next year or the next 2 years. It just shocked me that I won it still. I thought Ken was gonna retain the title and that I would just have to wait again for another shot. Yeah, it just still shocks me how I won that.
With all of these major federations you've been a part of, you didn't get to the top so swiftly, so tell me about your coming up in Rwa Wrestling.
In the way I improved, it's interesting because for some people that expected this, Sean never actually really trained me, to be honest. He only taught me one thing. What I basically did was, I just watched how he fought me, and I'd learn how to counter how he'd counter me, and I'd see how he would like fight each other or fight others, and I just like adapt that into my play style. So really, I kind of fight like Sean in a way, and overall, I just tried to see what he would do, and just all of a sudden, when I did that, it just made me better, because I also got better from fighting people that were better than me, as I learned from my mistakes, and that would help me learn to not do it again. And it wasn't an easy way out, as it took me, just like it took me from winning Outbreak Championship to RWA Championship, it took me 4 months to get better. It was not easy to get better. I'm definitely glad I was able to get better at this.
Is there anything you want to say to any of your fans out there, real quickly, before we end this interview?
You don't need a good setup to win anything. As long as you can just become good with what you have, you can do anything, because I was out there with a like $600 laptop. It wasn't that good, but I showed that you can do anything as long as you are able to do it. You could have like one of the worst setups, but you can still do good. As long as you have the determination to get better, you can just get better.
Thank you for coming on. Shout out to Roblania employee RCX Isaac for recording this interview.